This is apparently a conversation with parents, and I am your coach, Shawn Hopkins. This podcast was made for moms and dads and aunts and uncles and grandmothers and grandfathers and kinship caregivers, foster adoptive parents, and all people raising people. Welcome to aParently. The goal of this podcast is for you to sit in on a conversation between myself and another parent, talking about what's working, going through whatever challenges we might be going through and need a little extra support on, and celebrating each other's wins. The goal of this podcast is to encourage community, hoping that you will find your own parent to be in conversation with in order to sharpen your skills and be the parent that not only do you want to be, but that your kid really needs you to be. We are not perfect. We do not want you to walk away from these conversations feeling like you need to do more or do different. These are just ideas. This is just an opportunity for you to connect and steal some ideas of your own. So welcome to aParently, a conversation between parents. Today I'm talking to my new friend, Ashley. She is also a parent coach and a single mom of a really adorable young man, 11 years old, by the name of Orion. I hope that you will connect with us the way that we connected with one another and see opportunities for yourself and your own child. Thank you so much. Here we go.
So I'm a mom of one. He's 7. And
Okay.
having him has really started this different level in the journey of growth for me. And I think that that is something that's probably relatable for a lot of parents.
Sure.
So when he was 4 and really hitting that point where he wanted to test his boundaries and exert his will and, feel a bit more control over his experience, I noticed that I was struggling in my reactions.
Mm.
And I was very aware that this was something I wanted to change, and I felt like I really did not have the tools to know how to do that. So I started following a lot of, if you will, gentle parenting accounts on social media, and I realized that all of this information is great and it sounds lovely, and I don't know how to access that. So I ended up taking a parent coaching certification course without the intention of becoming a coach. Mm-hmm. I really just wanted to learn more about what it was these influencers, if you will, or coaches online were sharing, and to figure out how to really make that more accessible for myself. So yeah, I've been changed by that process completely.
That's awesome.
And my relationship with my son has completely changed, and I can appreciate the journey of parenting differently because I don't feel like I get stuck in shame cycles as much. And I think that that is something that a lot of parents can probably relate to, not showing up the way that they might want to and getting stuck in that cycle. So yeah, I come to you as a parent turned coach because of the beauty of the work and the reflection that comes with it.
Okay. So let me tell you.
Okay.
So the reactions and the shame, that is all something I share with you. So you're a single parent?
I am.
Okay, so am I. And I've been a single parent since the beginning. And it's remarkable how parenting makes you work on things about yourself that you've let go, but because you see the impact of your crappy behavior on your child's face and in their words whenever they're standing around you or trying to play with you or talking to you in certain ways. And when you hear it and you recognize that that's what's going on, it for me, it was a punch in the gut. And then it was like I had to quickly fix these things. So I totally recognize where you're coming from. In fact, I feel like, man, and then so that's why I went into this as well. I felt like it's so easy to stay there and then to give up. Do you see so
Yeah.
so when those moments were happening with my sons, and I knew that I had a choice to stick with it, like to just say, okay, well, they're gonna fold to how I'm operating because I am the boss. Like there was the moment of that thought of saying, well, you know what? This is my house. And that's the way things are gonna go. And then there was this other option of, wow, this seems like a really good time to start getting my shit together. This seems like a really good time. So for parents to have even that momentary lifeline of a parent coach that comes in. So I spent 10 years working for a company. I would go into sales programs and call centers, and I would find a solution. My goal was to be the fresh eyes to those programs so that they could be profitable again. And so I believe in the fresh eyes approach, and to be fresh eyes for a parent so that they can remove some of those obstacles and start to feel it's a little less heavy. It's a little more doable. And that is all I want to be, is to give the parents that momentary stress relief, that momentary lift of the stuff that's happening so that they can re-engage with their children and their home as a whole. Yeah, I think, and I think that probably should be what parent coaches do. You know, there's a ton of, I've got a bunch of materials I've written and whatnot. I've got multiple podcast episodes, but ultimately, I just want to give them that relief for a moment. You know what I mean? That's just amazing. Yeah. And we're also happier. We're happier people having worked on those things and realized that, our kids aren't walking on eggshells, right? They feel a little bit more safe being themselves, and they're not as fearful of how we respond.
Right.
They're present as well, instead of trying to figure out how to be in a relationship with dad or mom. You know what I mean? So
yes.
Bless you, Ashley. We're doing the Lord's work here. So
we are. We sure are.
That's great.
Yeah. I think that when we're able to get out of the critical mind of how we are doing everything, when we create a little bit more allowance for ourselves to not be perfect,
Yeah.
and to know more about repair
Yeah.
and offer that model to our children. I
Yeah.
think it creates a completely different dynamic in the energy of the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Can you tell me, so you took a course, but what were some of the things that you started to work on? You talked about your reactions. So how did you work on how you react to your son? Were there new
The-
tricks? Did you change dietary things? Were there, you said you looked at a lot of influencers, which I think maybe there's some tips that came out of that.
So honestly, I'd say the most impactful thing that I did was change the way that I spoke to myself.
Mm. Mm.
So there are tons of little tips and tricks that I think fit with certain scenarios, but overall, what I felt made the biggest impact was learning how to, in a way, reparent myself as I was learning to parent my child in a different way. And it was really and truly learning to say in my mind, oh, you didn't do that the way you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I see how heavy that feels. And just really talk to myself through a situation when I maybe raised my voice.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was able to find different languaging to be able to speak to myself differently, I was able to slow down and pause,
Mm-hmm.
access a pause before I reacted in a typical way or in a patterned way.
And how
So
long did it take you to get into that habit?
I, if I'm being realistic, I'd say a good 6 months.
Yeah. So
I
during those
mean,
times, you were recognizing that you needed to pause, or you were looking back on the moments that you didn't pause
mhm,
and you didn't beat yourself up for it. You
mhm.
just tried to access that pause so that you could gather yourself first. Does that sound about right? Or is there more to that?
Yes. So I would notice somatically in my body when I was starting to feel completely overwhelmed. And that was my cue to notice that I needed some sort of interrupter to help me pause. And the way that I was able to access that was through taking time throughout those 6 months, for example, to reflect on moments that I was not proud of and to think about what was I feeling? How can I notice that this might happen again? And how can I help myself access that moment before I react? Because I feel like a lot of times, and I hear this from friends that are parents, they end up yelling or punishing or just reacting in general before they even realize they're really doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I felt I was able to create more capacity for the realization, the noticing the cue, and then accessing the pause was through creating that more nurturing voice inside of myself. Because, and I have a great story, an example of
Please.
a recent occurrence that I think could be beneficial. My ego does not like this story, but that's part of it. And so it was last week. I live in Old Town area, so we have a lot of foot traffic, people walking their dogs, and typically I will get up early and let my dog out, and we have a little side area off the sidewalk where he typically will run out, do his business, and then run back in as we prepare breakfast and get ready for the day. And one of the days I woke up a little bit later than normal, and I was feeling a bit rushed. So I go and let him out. And I didn't look before I let him out, and there was a person walking by with her dog. And a month ago, this happened, and the lady I could tell she was not very thrilled that my dog was off leash. And so I've been trying to make sure I put the leash on him, and this morning I was just in a bit of a rush and wasn't thinking about it. And I felt bad. I started to hear this critic like, oh, you should have put him on a leash. And I noticed as this all is occurring, my son had just come out of the door. And this pattern in me that happens where I do something that I'm not proud of, and I don't want to feel like I'm in trouble, tries to make an excuse or explain it away to where it's not my fault. And it just slipped out of my mouth before I could really even think about it. And I said to her, oh, sometimes he just slips out. I'm sorry. And it was just a complete white lie, and it doesn't really hurt anyone, but my son witnessed this. And we go back inside, and I'm noticing internally, I'm feeling embarrassed for the action and for not really telling the truth. That was completely unnecessary. And that my son had just witnessed that. And he knew that that wasn't true. And I knew this woman probably knew that wasn't true as well. So it was a moment where I was able to, and I also noticed, I gave it about 5 minutes, and I was noticing that I was feeling impatient and a little bit crabby. Like my son, I was like, you're not getting ready fast enough. I was just not being patient with him. And I realized I am having a hard time right now because I'm not being very kind. And it wasn't something that was like overtly like, oh, you stupid, or, I wasn't like talking down to myself in my mind. But it was this like really insidious knowing and voice that was not approving of what all just happened. So I told my son, I said, I'm really sorry. I told that woman something that wasn't true, and I feel embarrassed about, 1, not taking our dog out on the leash, and 2, for not being honest with her. And I just acknowledged it to him. I'm not feeling very good about the choice that I just made.
Yeah.
And he said to me, I can tell. At 7, he said, I can tell. And they can tell. They notice these small changes in us that we may not recognize they're noticing. And they won't always talk about it or reflect on it because they're just not there yet.
Yeah.
And so I felt like it was a beautiful opportunity for me to model to him that we all make mistakes. We all might have a tendency to not feel good about that, and it might affect our behavior. But when we apologize and we own it and we accept the truth of what's happened and forgive ourselves, we get to create a new dynamic. And I feel like that type of modeling is really what our children take in more than what we tell them.
It is remarkable to me how intuitive our children are when it comes to who we are and who we're being. So I make it a point not to outright lie, even if I think it's like, for example, if we're watching a movie and I fast forward, through a certain part, and then my son goes, "Well, why are we fast forwarding?" I guess we don't fast forward anymore. We skip, whatever. But I'll tell him, I'll be like, "Well, it has sex in it. And it's because of the past." I'm like, "Well, I don't want to talk about it." Or, something, or I'll try to just skirt it. It's just not something we want to. Why? Tell me why. The specifics, I think, prepare them for the future, but also being honest with them. I think the more we're dishonest with our kids, the more they go looking for that dishonesty in us in the future. Like they can pick up whenever we're skirting the truth, and then they wind up looking for it more often because they're missing something. They feel like they have to be this detective to figure out what it is we aren't doing, and keeping them in the dark about, So those times where I've tried to clean things up, I've been in your shoes as well, where my kids will turn around and be like, yeah, I figured that. I picked up on that. So, oh, they're just mirrors, aren't they? Just little mirrors.
Yeah.
Well, so what I'd like to do is have you share a parenting win this week. And it sounds like you just did. I mean, that sounds like a great parenting win. You cleaned up something, and your kid's smart enough to pick up on it whenever you're trying to get away with it. But what's another parenting? What's something that makes you proud of your work as your son's mom this week? Something that I can celebrate with you.
So we had a moment, the separation between his father and I was a long process. And there were a lot of big feelings that came along with that. And there didn't seem to be a lot of capacity or ability for him to share what he was feeling.
Your son?
And my son. And we had a moment one night as we were lying down for bed where he randomly shared with me that he was wondering if he really loved anyone. And I got really curious and asked him what he meant by that. And well, I first asked, I said, "What does loving someone mean to you?" And he shared his opinion of what love felt like to him. That meant being close with others physically, like in proximity, and spending a lot of time with them and doing things that you love together. And I believe there was a comment around, I don't remember exactly what he said, around like trusting those people. And then he went on to share that even when there are people around, he still feels lonely. And I said, I can relate to that. I've had that experience. And then he shared that he just felt like maybe he had some old pictures, which I'm believing to be memories, that need to be deleted so that he can make more pictures. And I thought that it was a big win for me because he was really sharing something pretty deep around his experience. And after a little bit of back and forth, I took that as, he has memories of us as a family that don't fit anymore, and that he was feeling kind of lonely in this process of moving into a new space, of creating new memories, and our family looking different. So I felt that was pretty huge. It really made me feel really happy that he could share that with me, because I've never had him share such a deep internal reflection like that before.
His ability to put that into words is really impressive. Like, putting it in such a remarkable way. Like, that's an insightful young man.
I was blown away.
How do you move from there as his parent? What are you thinking about implementing or talking about, or how are you going to address those?
Mm-hmm. So checking in with him, just like, how are you feeling today? I have prompted and asked, like, are you still feeling lonely? That was a recent question, and he said that, no, that was just a temporary feeling. I said, okay. And really and truly what my intention is to just continue checking in around, does he feel supported? Another question that he had recently was, he was sitting at the table with his back to me, and I was in the kitchen, and he said, Mom, am I home? And I said, do you feel like you're at home? And he said, yes.
Good question, Mom. Good question.
And then I said, do you feel like you're at home when you're with your dad? And he said, yes. And I said, there's a saying that the home is where the heart is. And you can feel at home wherever you choose. It doesn't mean a house or location. And I think that has been a struggle more recently. We've lived separately for 2 years or more. And I think that it finally hit him in a different way as he's developing mentally and emotionally. And there's been a lot more pushback in the transitions, and I think he has been struggling a little bit with this idea of changing homes ever so often. And I thought that was a really beautiful opportunity to just really encourage that idea of, it doesn't matter where you are, it's the feeling you have when you're with the people that you love that really creates home.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my intention is to really keep checking in with him about, if he's feeling supported and at home, and really reminding him as often as possible, especially as a single parent. I think this is important as a parent in general, but on a daily basis, just reiterating, I love you forever and for always, no matter what. Nothing you will ever do will make me stop loving you. And really reiterating that both of his parents love him in that way, and that there was nothing that he's ever done that has created this change and dynamic in our family. I came from a divorced home, and I was one when my parents divorced, and nobody ever really talked to me about anything that had to do with what my internal experience might be. And I mostly lived with my mom. I got to see my dad, but the situation was such that I didn't see him very consistently or like on a routine schedule. And I didn't understand what I had internalized about that to mean about me until I started doing this work.
So what did you, excuse me, what are you specifically doing? You said that you are making sure that there are, it almost sounds like mantra mom words where you're reiterating love and safety. That's fantastic. What else are you doing to be intentional at these moments so that your son doesn't have the same experience?
What comes to mind, because I feel that in a lot of ways I am really more present with him. So I'm trying to be more intentional about just being immersed in what we're doing together or when he's with me.
At the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're playing a game, your phone isn't near you. You're like, I'm in this game. This is my, okay, great. Yeah, totally get that.
Being really intentional about that, creating more opportunities for us to connect with things that we both like doing. I like to paint a lot, and he has wanted to join me in that. So he's been sitting with me and painting with me and mixing his own colors, and that has been a really lovely time for us to drop in together. So I think the answer to the question really is being more intentional about our connection time and being more present in that time. And I've also, a piece to add is his father and I have been able to access in a pretty good way, being able to do things together. So all of us going and doing an outing together, or having the time at school functions, together. So knowing that there are, I apologize if you can hear my dog bark.
Nope.
Okay, good. So, and I know that this is not accessible for everyone, but I feel like for him, it is really important. He loves his father very much. And I've been really intentional about making sure that they have all of the time that they can to connect. And that we have some opportunities to go and do things as a unit. And I think it makes a big impact for him, for my son.
Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. You're still doing family activities, for your separation?
But
Not often?
not often, but at times, they will extend an invite to have dinner with them, or, go like to the pumpkin patch. We went to the pumpkin patch together once this fall. And I'll be honest, there's a lot of times where I don't really want to,
Fair, very fair.
but I do it for him.
What do you think you're teaching him with that?
I feel that the way that it feels to me is that there is an opportunity to still be in right relationship, whether we agree with someone or not, or whether we uh, choose to continue a dynamic that was once there. So that's a hard one for me. It feels like it doesn't have to be black and white.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of reasons that I could probably name off where it would make more sense to just completely not have contact and to do everything completely separately and have quick turnovers. For me, that would make the most sense for me, probably, in a lot of ways. And I'm trying to be mindful of how I'm wording this, because
Yeah, no, I got it. I picked it. That's fine.
and it's also a big part of my journey and my learning through my life that compassion and forgiveness are not for others necessarily, always. That a lot of times they're for us and for our peace. And in a lot of ways, it feels important to me to be able to practice that in places where you might not want to. And I think that
Example? Can you give me an example of that? When you say,
so,
yeah, you know.
okay. There have been a lot of moments in the relationship that I had with his father where things did not feel emotionally safe. And we don't always get to choose what happens when another person's behavior is not what we would like. And we get to learn how to have boundaries to protect ourselves. And I think that because of what I've learned through this journey of parent coaching, I understand and have compassion for the fact that people might act out in ways that are patterned because they don't feel safe. So, there have been moments in our experience where it would have been easy just to put up all of the walls and not ever have these moments of togetherness with all three of us. But the behavior isn't always there, right? It's not that this person is horribly abusive and it's unsafe physically, mentally, emotionally to be around this person all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I can have allowance for that and not demonize this person and make them out to be a bad person because of choices that they've made. So I feel that when I allow these moments of togetherness, I allow that possibility for forgiveness and compassion and acceptance, because this person has maybe made choices that weren't helpful or great in moments, but it doesn't define who they are. And so, yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, it's tough to really verbalize. I haven't had to verbalize this yet. And so I'm kind of thinking out loud a lot in the process. Does that land?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, first off, I think the way that you're wording it is terrific. I think it's definitely hard to, because it's probably not something you can write a script for.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with someone or a situation that has in the past caused you to feel unsafe, instead of building walls to keep yourself safe, you are more aware of the potential, but you're looking at things like how this will positively impact your son. You're still going to protect yourself as you will protect your son in those situations. And you are recognizing that that individual has the capability of being kind. But some decisions that they've made have been not great. I think those were your words. So, and very perfectly put. I think that takes a lot, Ashley. I think that takes it takes some wisdom. It takes some self-control. It takes a mother who is very interested in what peace she can bring to her son and his experience with his parents. And I tip my hat to you. That's impressive. And I really wished you could script that, because I think a lot of people could really benefit from it. In my situation, my boys have come from a difficult family situation. I was their foster parent 6 years ago. So I'm trying to teach them how to do what you're currently doing, how to be in relationship with people who have hurt you and have made you feel unsafe, whether it be emotionally or physically or spiritually or whatever the damage or whatever the trauma that you experienced. How to still exist in that space for a greater good is just it is a long term exercise of peace. It's a long term exercise of giving grace. So when I asked you the question of what do you think that's teaching your son, I think a very hard thing for people today, and I'm sure somebody my age 50 years ago probably would have said the same thing today, but at least in my experience, I think that reconciliation is hard. I think that being in not even just a relationship, but even a conversation with somebody who has hurt you is very challenging.
Yeah.
And to approach it in a way where you can still recognize that you're gaining something positive from that experience as well. So, if your mom beats you all the time and you're still showing up for Christmas dinners and you're still um, able to have a relationship with her where you can stop the damage when it starts to arrive and still be present, and your kids can benefit from that. I think that's a really hard thing to do.
I agree.
I think the skill to be able to do it, or it. So I keep saying the skill, but I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the challenge is the emotions that are happening inside you while you're attempting to do that. So it's this managing of your thoughts, it's managing your emotions, it's managing your reaction while you're in that person's presence. Teaching your child how to do that, man, I think that would be really hard. As I'm teaching my boys that all they can, seems like a lot of times all they can do is be angry,
And that's valid. And I think that there are a lot of circumstances where it may be the choice. It may be the right or better choice for someone to cut someone out of their lives. So I want to acknowledge that all situations are nuanced, and that I think that it's most important for people to do what feels safest for them in that moment. And to speak to my experience, I think what really allowed me to be able to access this is knowing that that person's behavior and their choices had nothing to do with me.
Say that again. Say that again. Say it again.
So the experiences that I had with other people where their choices and behavior were not kind or good towards me, really knowing and understanding that that had nothing to do with me was what freed me and has allowed me to be able to access that space of being around said people.
Mm-hmm. How do you get there?
For me, it's really looking at the evidence. So questioning the beliefs that I have around my worth. So finding a belief that I might have around, I'm not good enough.
Mm.
They're treating me that way because I'm not good enough, or I'm not perfect enough. And going into some self-inquiry, and this was done, for me, this was done with a coach. So I had someone to help me hold this reflection and dive into these self-inquiries at first. And I can do that more now for myself, but it's still nice to have someone to be there to help reflect and ask good questions. But asking yourself, where is the evidence that you're not good enough or you're not perfect enough? And finding, one of the tools that I love working with the most is around seeing your own greatness. So finding a person that you admire and picking a quality or two that you admire about them, and then finding 3 to 5 pieces of evidence where you already exhibit that quality in your life. Maybe it's something that you want to grow or embody more of, but where are you already doing that? Where do you already have confidence? Where are you noticing that you're already doing things in a great way, even if it's not perfect? So it really was a lot of self-worth work and inquiry that led me to that place of knowing I am worthy and whole as I am without changing anything about myself, and recognizing that we all operate from those beliefs. So if I'm believing that I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm going to behave in ways that make me small, that make me feel unworthy. And so having a different relationship with that allowed me to really embody and see that others' actions were coming from that place, and it had nothing to do with me.
That's terrific. That's something that we go through a lot in our house as well. So, and I'll add one thing that we've tried to implement is when we're having those thoughts and we're having that inner critic is absolutely shouting at us. One thing to recognize is that inner critic is oftentimes your parent's voice,
Mm-hmm.
and considering what kind of relationship you have with your parents, if you can recognize that in that moment, then you might be able to say, oh, well, that's not me. That's not me saying that. That's mom,
Mm-hmm.
or that's dad. And they don't have the right to say that to me now.
That's right.
I'm older and I'm better and I've accomplished some things, and damn it, leave me alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing that I do personally is, and this really helps with the mindfulness as well. So when I have those thoughts, I'll step out and I'll place my hand on my chest and I'll pat. And for some reason, this rhythm, but that rhythm really works for me.
Yeah.
But in this rhythm, in this tapping, and I swear to you that I think the rhythm really came from a relative at some point who just hugged me at the right time when I was really sad and for whatever was going on. But that rhythm really impacted me, and that it's me doing it now. I'm calming myself, and I'm going to say to myself, stopping those thoughts. Instead, I'm going to say, you're all right. You got this. And I got you.
Yeah.
And we're okay. This is all right.
Yeah.
And the more I keep saying that, the more I keep tapping, I get present. The thoughts from the past, the thoughts about what's happening in the future, both things I can't change, both things I can't help. But when I'm doing this, then I know I'm right here and I'm looking at your lovely Mary Magdalene painting behind you. And I'm not worried about what's happening or what's going to happen, because I'm taking care of me right now, and I can relax for a moment, gather myself, and be prepared to respond well to things and put somebody else first instead of my worries and my disdain for what I've done in the past or how I've wound up in this spot.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that, Ashley. That's fantastic. Yeah. And I think more parents need to recognize that there's a lot of self-harm when it comes to those thoughts that are keeping us out of that place we want to be in as a parent. Somebody who's here for our kids at this moment, and we're playing the game and we're listening to the story and we're not worrying about other things. We're just participating with our kid in their life right now, and that's really cool. especially as they get older. My gosh, they've got so many more things to talk about. So many more things. It's funny, like when they were little, they talked about stuff endlessly, and it was kind of cute. And then they stop talking that much, and they don't want to talk to you. And then they get to be teenagers, and we're like, "Why aren't you talking to me more?" And then suddenly they do, and it's like, "What are you talking about?" It's no concept of this.
Oh, man.
But man, I tell you, I think that um, in doing these types of exercises, our kids are going to see how we handle and manage these things, and they're going to ask us how we do it. Not now, not right now, but when they get older and they're wrestling with these things, they know where to go. They know who to ask, because they absolutely will. So we think so much about how our kids are going to graduate college, or how our kids are going to get good grades today, or how they're going to do well on the exam, or join the team, or make good friends and all that stuff. But man, oh man, our kids are really going to need us when they're our age and they have kids of their own, and they're thinking, how can I be responsible for this when I hate myself so much?
And hopefully they won't hate themselves so much because we were able to hold their emotions and be with them in their hard times without shutting down or shutting them down. I wanted to add a couple of things that really helped me in the beginning, and still I use today, but your share reminded me when something was happening, like if there was crying or whining or anything that would trigger me into this reactionary place, I would remind myself, this is not an emergency. Everyone is safe.
Mm.
And so I would kind of like repeat that, and then just, and then I would also, I have these moments where I'm like, you're doing a really great job. This is hard, and you're showing up and you're hanging in there. And I just will coach myself, cheerlead myself. Makes a big difference. It feels weird at first. I am not going to lie. I had a really hard time saying kind things to myself in my mind or out loud, because I didn't really have a framework for that, and it felt uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So it took a little bit of time getting used to it. I want to normalize that.
Actually, I want to say that your approach to these things is clearly somebody who's living their life in a way that's so intentional that others can participate in their own lives, watching yours as inspiration. So
You're saying that.
let me try to put it in clearer words. I think that your intentionality towards your own life and your own parenting is inspiring to others, but it also makes you likely a very good friend, mother, partner, all of those, and a coach especially. I think I want to have coffee with you. I want to hang out with you. I think that you are, it's clear that you're going through a lot of the same things that I can relate to. And having somebody like you in my corner, I think would only benefit me as a parent and a person. So I'm super glad to have met you. This is great.
Likewise.
Yeah. Where can people find Ashley Little for parent coaching?
Sure. So I have a website up, ashleylittle.love.
I love it.
I have a popular name, so .com was not an option, and I saw that and I was like, I love that. So you can contact me there. You can reach me at hello@ashleylittle.love. I have a small social media presence that I've played around with a bit. It's something that I've been trying to decide if it's where I want to put my time and energy or not. But I would say starting there would be a great place.
Yeah, I think at this point, people just need to know how to connect with you, because I'm sure people are going to hear this and say, she's got something I need. I need to know more about what she's saying about this, especially parents that are going through a separation. They feel that divide in the family and want to harness some of that strength that you bring. I think it's, yeah, like I said, you're inspiring. So I hope people do find you, because they should. So, Ashley, I just thank you so much for being a part of this. And I look forward to, I look forward to getting coffee with you and talking about this more.
I'd love that.
Okay?
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you so much. This has been lovely.
You're lovely. Well, thank you so much for watching today's conversation with parents. Ashley's great, isn't she? So if you want some coaching, please reach out to Ashley. I will have her link posted. And you can also reach out to me. I give out a free coaching session as well. Head on over to ShawnHop.com. Anyway, guys, I really hope that you tune in again, like, subscribe, everything you need to do in order to help other parents find this podcast as well. Thank you very much. I hope your holidays are going great for you and your kids. And again, you're doing better than you think you are. When in doubt, let me remind you, head on over to ShawnHop.com and schedule your free coaching session today. Thank you very much. Welcome to 2026.